lords, my ladies, and everybody else here not sitting on a cushion.
Well, we have a rather curious subject this morning. To study our heritage from the past is not simply a waste of time, because most of that heritage is still with us.
I think it's important to live life with a knowledge of its mystery and of your own mystery. And it gives life a new zest, a new balance, a new harmony to do this.
The human story is much more complicated and much more mysterious than we've been taught. We need to wake up as a human species. We need to become our own leaders. This is, in my view, the next step forward.
When people find out what it is that's ticking in them, they get straightened out.
We can win the fight, but we can win a little every day. And every day when we make the smallest victory, there will be a little more of happiness and a little less of pain. Every day, one step forward. Even a small decision will strengthen us for another one tomorrow. And gradually these right decisions will bring us enlightenment and companionship in the spiritual adventure of existence.
You know?
Hacha!
It's more of a NASCAR fan. Yay!
Oh, there you go. That's cool.
It's like the bootleggers from Alabama.
I grew up going to see the Gravedigger and monster car truck rallies at the Book in Pennsylvania. That was my origin story. That's how the book started. That was the beginnings of everything.
With Gravedigger?
Gravedigger.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I picked this book up and I thought, I bet he was watching monster trucks and Gravedigger when he was little.
Yeah.
The first thing I thought of, well, welcome to Wayfinder, guys. We're here with the amazing, the wonderful, the pleasant, and the abnormally fit Aaron Alexander.
Good. I don't think it's abnormal. I think it's more common to human physiology to like be put together in a.
Yeah, what's natural? It's how it should be.
I think it's not. Isn't that wild that's abnormal? Like,
right.
That guy looks like he could run for more than a quarter mile.
Boy,
What's
what
going
a freak!
On? Steroids?
What a well, but that's the thing, right? Is that what's normal and what's natural are no longer the same thing.
Yeah.
But they should be.
That's correct.
Right. So. You've got this amazing book that I've been able to flip through a little bit here. This is called The Align Method, and we've got like 3 cameras here, so we'll figure out which one makes the most sense to put that on later.
Yep.
When does this come out?
December 24th. This is the galley copy that you are holding.
Okay.
So, yeah, it'll be out and about December 24th of 2020.
How long did you work on this?
This has been intentionally since origins of proposal and then shopping it to the publishers and then all that, because that's all you're putting all of your intention, like what the book is going to be. Maybe a year and a half.
Beautiful. You happy with it?
Yes.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I'm immensely happy with it.
I've been following where can people find you on social media, by the way?
Everything's Align Podcast, ALIGN.
Okay.
Podcast, yeah. Align
Method is the name of the book. Align Podcast is the handle for all the social media.
Yeah, I got lazy. I didn't do there's an Align Band as well for a self-care page, and Aaron Alexander was taken originally. I'm like, I don't want to be the Aaron Alexander. I'm not, I'm like, fuck it, just Align Podcast, it's fine.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Not to mention like the Alexander Band.
Yeah,
it's not quite as marketable as.
Plus, the Alexander technique was already taken. So.
Is it really?
Yeah.
What is the Alexander technique?
That's a real thing. It's actually similar. It's in a similar vein of like rolfing, which is part of my background. Or
rolfing, like rolling on floor laughing.
Yep, that or just like vomiting is another way that sounds. So it's essentially like structural integration is a better umbrella term for all of that. So integrating or organizing your physical parts in space or in the field of gravity. So once your parts are lined up, just like any building, so if a structure was, think of the World Trade Center. If all of a sudden you took out, the bottom quarter of the World Trade Center, you'd be like, ooh, I don't know, that doesn't look good.
Yeah.
We'd have to put up a bunch of supports and kind of, find different ways so that it doesn't tip over. It's the same thing in your body. If you have alignment with your ankle to your knee, to your pelvis, to your spine, to your other parts, then all of a sudden those cables and pipes and all that stuff that is your nervous system and your fluid networks, they can line up and you can be a healthy, robust, aligned organism. And once you're in that position, then your body begins to heal itself. And if you're out of that position, then there's conflict.
Really?
Yeah.
So people who have slip discs and different back problems and things like that, there's probably some alignment issues. People are sitting around too much. And
there's almost absolutely alignment issues, and then there's also an emotional component and all that that's interesting as well.
What's that about?
Well, so I think if you are, so scoliosis, for example, is more common with adolescent girls. And so as an adolescent girl, there's all sorts of interesting things happening. There's like growths coming out of your chest, and there's blood coming out of your body, and
it's weird shit.
Men are staring at you like some kind of prey animal, and it's an interesting time to be alive, I would imagine. I could only guess. And in that time, it would make sense that if you had the option that you would maybe kind of like cover up a little bit.
Right.
Since it's not so socially acceptable to like put a box over your body and go to school, you kind of can hide inside of yourself, and then you kind of contort your spine in such a way that makes you feel like nobody sees you.
Interesting. So like I always...
This is one example.
And that's incredible because like one of the things that we talk about on this show a lot is that everything in life is a relationship. Life's just made up with relationships. Your relationship with yourself, your relationship with, your self-image, and every one of those relationships says something about you and does something to you. Yep. So it's a spiraling relationship, right? Mm-hmm. So what you're talking about here is this emotional reaction to a physical environment, which causes you to do a thing, which then self-perpetuates at that point, right? So this is like how we get into these misalignments in our body. So you and I talked earlier. Like I sat at a desk for 10 years. It didn't do shit, right? And so that creates a problem. Well, then once that problem begins to take root in my lower back or whatever from anyone who's sitting at a desk all day long, it becomes more and more difficult to get up and go exercise. Yeah,
you get kind of stuck. You get kind of like that's what one of the primary aspects or chapters of the book is, just encouraging people to spend more time on the ground. Crazy revolutionary
you have this ground
idea.
Culture concept,
floor
right?
culture,
floor culture.
Yeah, but ground culture is fine too.
Talk about that.
Yeah, so that's since the beginning of time, the human organism has gone up and down off of the ground regularly throughout the day. The time that started to go away from that was the origin of chairs, which goes back to Egyptian times, and it's like an indication of royalty. You're sitting up above other people. And it's like then that leads into like the disease of affluenza. Mm-hmm. So when you start to outsource that movement function of your hips and your ankles and your knees and all those parts, then your hips and ankles and knees and all those parts say, okay, cool, fuck it. I guess we can. You're good. You're good. Yeah. Are we good? You're good. Okay, cool. We're good. And then that's...
What are you doing tonight? I'm just going to atrophy. How about you? Yeah. I'm going to atrophy too. It'd be cool.
Exactly.
Just throw out all the developmental players and that whole function of what makes us human.
Yeah. And so what we end up doing, because then that leads to all sorts of different physiological bummers, is we outsource that then to paying for supplements, paying for exercise apparatus, all this weird stuff that the origin story of that is that we left our natural roots. The idea of our natural roots sounds like, okay, like tinfoil hat, I'm going to go out, live in the woods, and I'm going to, have multiple wives or something. This is getting weird. It's like, no, man, like you just squatting down to the ground to pick something off the ground, you drop your glasses or something like that. Like that's an opportunity for you to start to cultivate your fitness and cultivate your well-being.
Sure.
And so if you start to change your environment ever so slightly, so add a comfy rug onto the floor, add a couple floor cushions or a Moroccan poof thing, then you come in there, put a foam roller down there, a couple balls, get a band, get a pull-up bar in your doorway. Then your home becomes more of like a natural environment. And then when you go in there, naturally your inclination is to use your home, and so you say, cool, sweet, let's I'm gonna eat on the ground, or I'm gonna check my text messages while I'm sitting on this really comfy cushion, and then the byproduct of that is you are healing your hips, you're circulating your blood, you're circulating lymphatic fluid, you're expanding and contracting your pelvic floor muscles.
It gets really tough to, like even for me now, I told you I've been doing this for like 9 months now, after 15 years of doing fuck all.
Right.
And it gets really tough for me to even go sit and like I got a comfy couch. My body doesn't want to sit on that couch anymore.
Good for you.
Know what I mean?
That's what I say in the book. I'm like, that's like the warning is like, just so you know, once you go back into the way that your body's, supposed is a funny word, but like the more like healthier version of itself.
Yeah.
It's not going to like that previous mold.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Your body's natural best self is going to be oriented on natural movements.
Yeah.
Like you said, a couple million years of evolution's pointed us to where we are.
Yeah, which will make you harder to control if your task, your work is based around sitting in a chair, staring into a computer all day long.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with that. You can put your computer beside a window and look out the window regularly. You could put your computer down, you get a lower desk, so you can be sitting in, like, say you do a sukhasana position, like just cross legs, or a straddle position, like you do in any kind of like jujitsu dojo or just hanging out in the park, or a malasana, deep squat. You go through that, and you got the window. Maybe you crack it every now and again. Maybe you don't use the air conditioning in your house that day or that that moment. Depending where, if you're in Dallas, probably throw the air conditioning on and just go outside and kind of get some of that.
Not everybody lives in Venice Beach.
Yeah, right. No, exactly. but the reason I point that out is thermoregulation is a form of fitness. So your body just being cooped up in this same temperate condition all the time.
Yeah.
Once again, same way that your muscles around your hips and your pelvic floor and all that stuff, they say, cool, we're in atrophy mode. It's the same way at a cellular level when you expose yourself to, or you don't expose yourself to a range of temperature.
I get that. I've talked to my kids about that, and that's something that, growing up out in the sticks, being a hillbilly like I was, we got used to being in the Texas heat, playing in the woods and getting sticky and getting cuts and all that stuff.
Yeah. And
nowadays, the kids, it's 70 degrees inside. There's a comfy couch and there's a video game, and it's like the easiest thing in the world to do. Yeah. To just as a parent, sometimes I think to just stick your kid on the couch and let them do their thing during the summertime, right? But it's another one of those self-perpetuating spirals, because once a kid gets used to 70 degrees and they get used to the video games, like it's really tough to get them to go outside. My kids, we took a 2-week road trip out to Sedona. Right.
Cool.
Go spend some time out in the desert. We've done it for the last 3 years. And it's hard to get them inside after that. Right. So it's just conditioning yourself to go do these more natural things. And it's there's so many cognitive correlations with what goes on in the mind of a person who's used to sitting on a couch and used to watching a TV or whatever it is, versus someone who's out moving and doing those things outside.
Yeah,
it's a whole different kind of thing.
You need to just begin the process of redefining what normal is to you.
Yeah.
Because normal, statistically, and statistics are statistics. There's like a Mark Twain quote that I like that said, there's lies, damn lies, and then statistics. But if you look at the world statistically, we're veering towards more anxiety and more depression and more obesity and diabetes and arthritis and all these different random spots and Alzheimer's, like all this shit.
And you would say, those are alignment related issues.
It's
right?
part of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So what the Align Method book does is it outlines the whole mechanical conversation the best that I and the team around the book could do. Okay. And so that gets into the mechanics of the way that our sight affects our physiology and how we can leverage that as a tool, the way that sound affects, the way that touch, mindfulness, all the parts.
If our sight's not right, then we're leaning head forward toward a computer screen or whatever, and that's going to cause all kinds of problems in the neck and whatever else.
Your sight's tied into everything, including the function of your autonomic nervous system.
Okay.
So if you're chronically staring at something up close, i.e. like your cell phone, your computer screen, all that evolutionarily tells your body that you are about to attack something. You're focused. You're kind of more in that like fight flight, like, okay, draw my energy and channel into here. When you go out more into like the blurred vision, or you look out into the panorama over the mountains or the ocean, immediately your reaction is this just, so you can tap into that anytime, because that's all tied into your visual system since the beginning of your humanness. Before that,
sure.
And so the common tendency, myself included in this, is after a stressful day of whatever, I want to deload, decompress, and stare into my Instagram notifications. And when I'm doing that, I'm aware that I'm just perpetuating this cycle of stress.
That's how I wake up in the morning.
Most people, man.
Just wake up and fucking look at the Instagram.
I think most people are that way.
I do it.
I don't know if you're joking or serious.
No, I'm dead serious.
So
I get that it's like the worst thing in the world to do. Yeah. But I'm not a morning person. So it's like
that's a belief system. That's a story.
Okay, I'm gonna hear more about that. I need to tell myself a different story. I wake up, dude, and it's like this cortisol. I'm just like, give me the cortisol, wake me up.
Yep.
Let me just. That's if I don't, I'm just gonna go back to sleep.
Because we're addicted to stress.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the thing, is that you are
Totally.
It's like with anything. Like, so on your platform, you talk about like psychoactive stuff and all those things. You know, that's the biggest thing that most people fear, or like I fear, is change. You know, and so when you're taking the blue pill or whatever color it was in the Matrix, and you're, you know, what's the guy's name? The boss guy. There's Neo, and then the
Morpheus.
Yeah, Morpheus is like, okay, like which pill do you choose? You know, you're patterning because you haven't died yet on your stressful patterns. Your inclination is to stay in that stress box.
Yeah.
You know, and so when there's an opportunity to come out of that, that almost feels more stressful because it's foreign.
Yep.
You know, so like chickens, like free range chickens, like if they grow up inside of a dark pen, when they open up the door, say, cool, it's free range, you can go outside if you want, they're like, fuck that. I could die out there, man.
Do you know I raised chickens? I raised chickens.
No, I think I intuited that.
Yeah. Obviously. Of course, we're in Texas, so, I mean, you can probably just assume there's a 50-50 chance I fucking raised chickens.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're totally right. Like, you know, we
Are you right-handed?
Yeah, dude, you're psychic.
Dude!
Yeah. Dialed the fuck in, man. Dialed in.
Wow.
Yeah, man, it's totally how it is. It's like, and if the expected discomfort, or the discomfort of where you are is not greater than the discomfort for change or whatever, then you just kind of stick in those ruts. Yeah, that's where we stay.
Yeah.
And bodily, I was telling you earlier, one of the things that I think is really tremendous. And how long? Well, first of all, how long have you been doing this physical thing? How long have you been you?
Professionally been doing physical stuff, teaching people, clients about physicality stuff for 16 years.
For 16 years.
But it's changed dramatically. I was obsessed with bodybuilding, and I was essentially like teaching people how to be imbalanced for like at least 5 years. I mean,
really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure looking back now at this point, I haven't gotten to the end of anything.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll look back in 10 years and be like, oh, fuck, man. That stuff that I was saying back 10 years ago.
You're just going to get more and more full of shit in retrospect as you get older and look back.
I think that's the natural tendency, yeah.
Yeah. If we're growing the way that we should, then that's kind of how life goes, right?
Yeah, man.
Like with every year that passes, every birthday, I reflect and I'm like, you know what? I'm getting less and less full of shit, but I'm getting more and more full of shit 20 years old, 22, 23. 20-year-old me gets fucking dumber every year.
Yeah. Yeah, the sooner that you can get to the bottom of that, just take yourself less seriously.
That's it. So, you know what? I'm glad that you said that. That's something that I'm trying to do right now. It's a big thing I'm trying to implement in my life, is to be more playful, be more playful with my kids. And that's another thing I got from following you. Of course, I felt like you were full of shit when when I first saw that. It's like, I'll be more playful. I'm a fucking grown man. Like, how am I going to be more playful? I got to do things. I've got a technology company I got to deal with, and very left brain calculating shit going on. Aaron doesn't fucking know anything about, what I got to deal with. He lives in
New Ager in Venice.
Yeah, he's over in Venice Beach doing cartwheels in the fucking beach all day long in his underwear. You know what I mean? The fuck do you know?
I agree. I hear that.
But
no, I'm with that. I'm completely.
He's like, I've got no argument there.
I completely hear that.
But the reality is, you manage to, you make it a priority to it seems like from an outsider's perspective, to keep yourself playful, and to surround yourself with play, to immerse yourself in that. How much does that have to do with that spiraling your life?
Well, I think play is a relative word. So play has been bastardized into being this childish, kind of careless or carefree term. But if you look at like hunter-gatherer, our ancestors / people that are still doing that / just like healthy people in the world presently.
Sure.
There's the filter that you perceive the world through can be one of playfulness. And you can be the head executive, head of the board, standing at the edge of the table, guiding the ship, and still be like, by the way, guys, this is all a fucking game. This is probably a dream. It may be a simulation.
Yeah. We are in fact living in a fucking video game. Let's not get too serious here. Let's not get carried away.
Yeah,
And I love that. But no, you're exactly right. It's just a lens to look at things through, right? It's just a playful lens. You fucking wake up, something goes wrong. I had something go really wrong the other day, and it was like a big thing at work that would have totally derailed me a year ago or 6 months ago.
Yeah.
But I just laughed. I said, it's a fucking game.
Yeah, that's like, and life is all just a game, and it's, every moment's the most important thing that ever could be.
Yeah.
So that you could get into another kind of slippery territory where you start to become kind of like a psychopath, and you just say, it's all a fucking game. We go shoot these people up or something because it's just a fucking dream, man.
That's Charles
We're
Manson,
all
right?
computers. Yeah. And that's like the Unabomber. He was one of the guys that was tested with LSD like really heavily, and they were doing some serious brainwashing shit with him. And it makes
like the MK Ultra stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. Is
you know anything about that? Yeah,
it's called. I think that probably was right.
Yeah, they had government programs called MK Ultra.
Yeah,
and they were doing LSD and stuff like that on people, and some of them they wouldn't tell them. They were doing that, stuff.
And so I think there was something. This might be misrepresented, but I think one of the things was like trying to break him during a time where he was tripping, and like that was like the controlled thing. It was just like tell him how much of a piece of shit he is, and just like how can we break this person's psyche? What does that look like? Can we do that?
Yeah.
And then afterwards, like, oh, imagine that. He wants to attack the fucking government and the machine and the corporate machine. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Who would have guessed
Go
it?
figure.
Yeah.
Go figure.
And so his ideas were actually quite lucid, and his perspectives, his intention, his practices for arriving at the destination that he had visualized were, I think everybody would agree, were like way deranged and off. But underlying that, I mean, his perspectives was that like the corporate machine and the government, the way that things are, is it's destroying us.
I know you're a fan of Chris Ryan.
He's cool,
right? So Chris Ryan just released a book called Civilized to Death.
Yeah.
Have you read that?
Yeah. Yeah, I have actually.
Talk about that concept, because I think
my book's really similar.
I was going to say, to me, that's something that when I first heard about Chris Ryan, which I think I heard of him through you a while back, and then heard him on another podcast talking about this new book, Civilized to Death. I thought, that sounds a lot like a lot of your principles, of course, are really much more physically oriented than what I've personally had experience with in the past. Now, thanks to you and your work, I'm in the best physical and mental shape of my life.
Yep.
Right. So anyone, by the way, this whole thing is happening because Aaron legit had this impact on my life, right? So to share that with my audience is something that's important to me. But anyway, the idea of being civilized to death is something that I've kicked around for quite some time. I didn't really until your work understand how much physically we're getting fucked up by civilization, right? So how does all that play into the urbanization of what we living in these big urban farms and stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah. Chris calls it like a zoo. He says you want to live in the San Diego Zoo instead of the Calcutta Zoo.
Yeah.
So it's like you're going to be in a zoo regardless.
Right.
If you go for a walk in the park and go into like nature in quotations, it's not fucking nature.
Yeah.
Nature is when you're like watching your back because a lion might eat you.
Yeah.
Like that's nature.
That's it. Do you ever do any like nature stuff like that?
Yes, of course.
Really?
That's my favorite stuff to look at.
You go out and
oh yeah, no,
I
lived in Colorado for 5 years, so like.
Oh, did you really?
Going out in the mountains and camping,
totally.
and I was into rock climbing, and we'd like see mountain lions and approach bears, and that's not like my life. I'm by no means like Mr. Nature. What's a
Survivor
Bear Grylls or
Bear
whatever?
Grylls?
Not at all.
Yeah.
I'd love to be. That's aspirational. That's the direction I'd like to go.
Yeah.
While maintaining all this other stuff as well. But I think living in nature and knowing that if shit hits the fan or whatever, like I know how to build a fire and I know how to create shelter. I've got this amazing community around me. I can hunt my own food. I have a bow. I can gather. I know which plants will kill me, which plants will feed me and my family. I think that even if you just approach that from a perspective of play, like that's your style of play.
Yep.
There's an underlying knowing that like I can take care of myself.
Yeah, you definitely walk across the room different.
Fuck yeah, you do. Same thing with learning jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai. It's like you walk into a room like, pretty sure I'd kick everybody's ass in here.
Yeah.
There's a sense like you're not going to walk around cocky at that point.
Yeah. That's the thing.
You walk around cocky if you're afraid that somebody's going to kick your ass.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're projecting your insecurity everywhere because you don't know. Yeah. Grew up building fires and stuff, being hillbillies like we were, you know, and then just seeing, my kids know how to build a fire. Most of their friends don't. And there's just a whole different kind of thing. It's like telling my kids to build a fire. We go camping or whatever. Yeah. And to be able to turn your kids loose with some sticks in the fucking woods and then have them make a fire. As a parent, there's a confidence component to that too. Certainly. Just knowing that your offspring have got some basic survival tools to take care of themselves.
Not to mention the byproduct of those processes is becoming a more embodied human being, because in order to do those things, you have to be fit enough to do it.
Yeah.
You know, so then that ties back more into like the mechanical conversation of the way that you inhabit your physical body. Physical inhabitants is the term that I kind of, I don't know that I made it up per se, but it's not a term that I hear a lot.
But you use it a lot.
I use it a lot, and that's my intention of the Align Method book.
What does that mean, physical inhabitants?
The way that you, right now as we're doing this, we're inhabiting ourselves in such a way. You know, so the way that we're breathing, the way that we're looking, the sounds that we have in and around our environment, the sounds that we make ourselves.
What about the way that we're visualizing ourselves archetypally? Does that play into that at all, or is that something
visualize
totally separate?
Ourselves? You mean like ourselves in the future, or our perception of self now?
Our perception of self in the moment.
Fuck yeah, man. That's the container that you hold yourself in.
Yeah.
If you believe you're a fit, strong, strapping, robust athlete, whatever, you better believe you'll stay in that container.
Yep.
If you believe that you're a piece of shit that doesn't deserve anything and should just eat some McDonald's because the dollar menu is all I'm worth, better believe that's where you're going to go.
Preach, dude. That's it.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. The, the discovery, the hero's journey in search of self is like one of the biggest things, one of the biggest journeys that we go on, and a lot of people don't even realize that we're on it, right? Is understanding that perception of self and knowing that I'm like you said, I'm this strapping, powerful, capable, able-bodied person, so I should act as if.
Yeah.
And I should live that way. I should live as if I'm a person who's worthy of love and being healthy, and I shouldn't just go sit on my recliner and be a lazy ass because I want to, because I'm better than that. And I'm worth more than that.
Yeah, you are better than that. Anybody listening, you are better than that.
Yeah, that's it.
Without a doubt. There's no doubt about it. Like, you got incarnated into this form for some fucking reason.
Do you think life's a miracle?
I don't know. I'd have to define miracle.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It's pretty special being you, though, right? Man, and there's like a billion sperm.
I know. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think it's life. I'm like 50-50 with everything. I mean, yes, it feels pretty damn miraculous. But I think it's words. You know, it's like it depends on each individual's definition of what that word means.
Yeah.
But I feel darn grateful for everything. I could say that.
Do you?
Yeah.
How does gratitude, what is your relationship like with gratitude in your life? What do you think of when you hear that word? What does that mean to you? And how do you implement gratitude in your life at all?
That's a great question. I use it as like an anchor, you know, so I come back to gratitude regularly, all day. And then I have moments of feeling disconnected, lonely, separate, without, unworthy, things like that. And then I will lean back on the other filter, which is, wow, this is a fucking miracle. And wow, the fact that like I have legs that I can walk on right now, and I'm pissed off about some bullshit, some minutia nonsense in my life. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a practice to have a positive outlook, which it sounds kind of too light and cheesy. It's a practice to feel content, to feel supported, to feel loved, to feel successful, to feel like have purpose in your life. I think it's a practice.
Yeah.
You know, and it's something that you need to do, not just with having internal mantras saying like, you're the man, you're the best, you're handsome or smart or whatever makes you feel good. Also taking action on those things.
Right.
You know, and if you do get lazy, then the world will consume your perception, and the world, from like, as far as like a corporate perspective, would much prefer you be consumed by their media or consumed by their products or consumed by maybe their workforce.
Yeah, everything in the, or most of the powerful influences in media and in pop culture are really oriented on instilling scarcity.
Yeah.
Into your mind.
Oh yeah.
So operating from a place of scarcity instead of a place of gratitude.
Yeah.
And, and thanks for what I have. Instead, I'm feeling like I don't have enough.
Yeah, it's like
I'm not enough.
Edward Bernays, who's I think he was the nephew of Sigmund Freud. He was considered the father of modern advertising, and the big transition that he made with advertising was that we're not going to advertise, the Align Method. We're not going to advertise why it's like, oh man, it's going to make you stronger, it's going to give you better abs, and it's going to, you know, make you feel more confident, and it's going to make you do better at your sport and work and family and all these things. It's like, no, we don't care about that. You need to identify with this, because if you have abs, you're this type of person. You know,
I gotcha.
You know, so it's like, oh, okay, so I see that car. It's like, it's not about the gas mileage or the type of rubber used in the tires or whatever. It's that if I drive this car that I can't actually afford, I will be another person.
Yeah.
And once you start feeding people that and they buy it, now they're in a really great position to give you their credit card.
Yeah. So it's like they were creating these products as building them up to be like an icon of a certain category of human.
Yeah.
Right, and they control those icons, and they control that category of human.
Yeah.
Start driving scarcity that much more, and being able to get whatever they want.
Yeah, but the thing that it's challenging for any, I mean, this is definitely, I don't know what your audience enjoys listening to. Hopefully they enjoy like tinfoil hat type conversations. That's the direction I'm going right now. Great. But I think the thing that we all have, all of us, is our health and our movement and our, you know, that like in any point, if you're bored throughout the day, like you haven't paid enough attention to all of the amazing shit that's happening right now, even just in your body. Like your breath, there's so much, you have a lifetime of work that you can do on cultivating your breath.
Breath control is a big thing.
It's a big thing. And then getting out of that is, and sorry to interrupt you, but going out of breath control and going into more of like a natural breath.
Yep. You want to talk about breathing? Because one of the things I talk about, right, I'm such a neophyte to all of this shit, but like just in the meditative practices that I've gotten into in the last few years, it's been profound to me, right? Just the stretching and the yoga and stuff. A lot of that I've gotten from you. Been fucking profound.
Cool.
Conscious breathing.
Yeah.
Has been crazy for me.
Yeah. Well, you got to start off with conscious. It's like Alvin Toffler has a quote about learning.
Love Alvin Toffler.
First you learn, then you have to unlearn, and then you have to relearn.
Yeah.
You know, so the process of recultivating one's breath, you came from a place probably being your breath being kind of more up in your chest. You probably, maybe not probably, very likely breathe through your mouth more than is necessary.
Yeah.
And both of those, just for starters, put you into more of like a sympathetic fight-flight type place. Naturally, what that would translate to is like, oh, I'm like huffing and puffing on top of a hill, you know, or you know, I'm making to the top of the hill and I'm like out of breath, you know, in that, or maybe I am under attack from some animal and I put the breath up in the chest, you know, I want to just drive all that blood out into the muscles and kind of just get the fuck out of the room right now.
Yep.
You know, but if you, so that your breath cycle, there's a one-to-one connection to your internal physiology, your mental, emotional state. And so if you can start to, so that's being a little bit fire and brimstone, but say that's a kind of more of a place that you come from, more of like a stressed, like a archetypal kind of like, okay, I breathe a little bit like stressed. From there, okay, I've been patterned in that for a long time. My environments form me to that position because I will go into environments that kind of revalidate that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a man or woman that keeps going into an abusive relationship. It's like, wow, you're kind of dating the same guy for the last 25 years. Huh. Interesting. What's going on there?
It's comfortable.
You know, it's like, I don't know.
Familiar.
I think all men are abusive. I don't get it. They're just, I think, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I feel
I
like
don't know if that's it.
There's something that you're comfortable with there.
Yeah.
You know, so the same thing. If you're comfortable in that specific breathing pattern, then you'll end up inevitably putting yourself in those positions to breathe that way.
How do you rate those patterns?
Well, there's a few different ways. There's two different directions, probably more than that. But one, change the environment. You know, so the environmental shift that you could do is, like I mentioned, just have yourself look up more often. When you walk into the room, look up into the ceiling. When you walk outside, look up into the clouds. When you look up into the trees. What that's going to do is going to put you into that more of that panoramic view. Same thing we talked about earlier. What does panorama do to you? It makes you breathe like, oh man, just let it out. You know, so that's one thing you do. Another thing you could do would be, I mean, there's a lot of different things. Incorporate touch into your life. Hug.
Yeah.
Get a hug. You know,
hug everybody.
Hug. Well, I mean, unless they're not into it, in which case, you know, it might be even better for them. But yeah, I mean, be respectful and understand what
do hugs
room
do?
you're in. So much, man. So touch. So there's just like I talk in the book about the Romanian orphanages back in the late 80s. There was too much kids and not enough caretakers. The dictator was like saying no birth control. You got to make as many humans as possible, and then we couldn't care for them. Then there's like the fall of the whole thing, and then we have all these humans and nobody to take care of them. They're not getting touched enough. They just don't grow. So people can look up, or it's in the book, but look up Romanian orphanages touch, and you'll see endless research on the effects of little kids not having enough contact. They get all the nutrition they need, but they're not having that physical contact that says, I accept you, I love you, I'm taking care of you, we're on a team, you're in the tribe, you're connected.
Right.
In our autonomous world where I can do it myself, like if I'm especially as I think, well, as a man or a woman, I can only speak from a man's perspective, but I feel like if you don't feel like I can do it myself, it means you're weak.
Right. 100%.
So you learn how to suck it up and put your tie on and all right, cool, like get to work.
Yeah.
Where really what would have maybe potentially been immensely helpful for you and the health of yourself now and in the future and your family and your team and everything is to have a moment of saying, like, you know what, like I'm not feeling well right now. Yeah. I could really use some support.
I think, one of the big things I know that I've seen personally in like the corporate world is that there's, and I've talked to lots of people about this, is that there's the whole facade of professionalism really is first and foremost oriented on negating vulnerability,
Totally.
or completely shutting down any vulnerability that you might express to anyone, right? So like the most professional guy at the table is going to be the one who's the most intimidating, or the most, seems like the most stoic guy there. And so we've built this culture of fake invulnerability in men, and we get this, again, I can't speak from a woman's standpoint, but from a guy in the corporate world, like it's this really unhealthy, toxic sort of masculinity that goes on.
Yep.
And again, everything says something about you and does something to you. So you go take that same energy back home, and you're not cultivating those male relationships with other men, who are connected with their feelings.
Yeah.
You're not. They're not. Nobody is. How much have your relationships with your friends, particularly other men, how much has there been a brotherhood that you've cultivated in your life that's giving you an outlet for a healthy flow of masculine energy and dealing with things in an authentic way?
Yeah, man, I mean, it's been like a lifeline for me. You're standing in a room of some of my like closest friends that have taught me more about love, especially between men, than many other. I think it's just that I've been open. I don't know who started what. I think in some part, like I've been so closed off throughout my life, out of fear of. I think the big thing is just not feeling worthy of love.
Yeah.
Is a big. That's something that's common with a lot of people, but me, I noticed that, is that, so we're in, I don't know if people know who's like Aubrey Marcus, or like the whole On It sphere or whatever.
Everybody here knows Aubrey.
Great. All right. So we're recording in his office right now, and I'm over at his place. I'm staying at his place, and he has the galley of my book sitting up, like facing out on his shelf. Partly just because he's got to get to it because we're about to do an interview about it.
Yeah.
So there's that, but I think he would anyway because he like actually loves and cares about me.
Yeah.
And that idea, when I saw that coming into the house, he didn't set that up for me. I mean, I don't think. To me, I see that, and it's almost like hard for me to look at.
Right.
And those are moments where I look in and I'm like, "Fuck, man." Like there's still these blockades around
just
the
not quite
belief
worthy.
that something like that. And I think what that translates to is the feeling of being loved entirely. I think that means you have to show all of your shit. You can't just show your handstands and your back flips and your muscles and your supplement cabinet and your car and how organized and put together your hot girlfriend.
Yeah.
Like that's great. Those are great byproducts of something. But underneath that, you also shit, you piss, and you have an anus, and you have a perineum, and you have a shame about all these different little things.
Toxic emotions and traumas and all kinds of stuff.
Sometimes you don't say the right thing. Sometimes you're scared of things. A lot of times you're scared of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be like truly allow love in entirely, it means that you need to open yourself up to all of those parts that you might not feel it's safe to let people see.
Yeah.
And so being around a group of people, maybe starting with yourself, but I think people are an extension of yourself. So, maybe what's the difference? That really like radically accept anything. It's a really big deal. And if you're around a group of people that are too afraid to accept anything, then there's a good chance you'll stay locked up in that like zip up the tie and get your stilettos on, or I guess those are, I'm mixing sexes there, you know, but you put on all the clothes and you zip yourself up and you go out into the world and you show the world what's acceptable.
Yeah.
You know, so I think the sooner that we can be vulnerable with I'm kind of ranting, I apologize, but the sooner you can be.
That's what we're here for, man.
Good, perfect. So the sooner that you can get to a point of, I think it's healthy to give little like tidbits of vulnerability just to like test the waters.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you don't have to necessarily come out and do the whole shebang right away, but like just little tidbits.
Open with that. I just shake someone's hand and then just give them all my garbage. And just
Yeah, it might not be that, but I think what you do if you do little tidbits, it opens the next person up. Says, wow, that person is pretty fucking vulnerable with me, man.
That's
you
it.
know?
I think.
And then they do the same thing.
You're totally
it's this
right.
ping pong match, and then eventually you're like, I think we've talked about everything that we have access to presently, at least.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Let's go get a beer.
100%. Yeah, it's not trying to put up that posture, right? That facade of like I'm
It
invulnerable.
has to come
I've
down.
got my
You
shit
will
together.
become tired.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so whether you become tired at age 65 or maybe
Right.
you know later than that, or you become tired at age 16, that facade will become tiring, and you will have to put it down because you're going to have to like get some real air at some point.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. What's your when you're applying all of these different ideas, right? Which are not just physical fitness ideas. It's emotional. It's intellectual. All kinds of stuff. What does that evolution look like in your, let's say, your romantic life, right? Your dating life. I mean, has there been major fuck ups in your history where you maybe didn't know some of these things and you were like, fuck, man, really didn't represent yourself the way that you were proud of? And
yeah, certainly. So my thing has been over the years is to be like veering towards projecting as though I'm like the Dos Equis man.
You're that guy.
You know, so like, cool, like I bought a one-way ticket to Bangkok. We'll see what happens. Or like next year, all right, cool, I'm going to Colombia, got my climbing rope, my backpack, and I'm just like, fuck it. You know, I sold all my shit, I'm out. I'm going for 6 months. So, you know, I'll take some pictures. Like, see you later. You know, and so that was throughout my 20s. That was kind of what I was doing. In large part, I was doing other stuff too, but I realized that a big part of my doing that was just a means of one, potentially putting like a stopping the potential of any relationships really deepening, because that felt like perhaps scary,
right?
You know, so I was always had that. Okay, cool.
Why was that scary
this.
to you?
I think
the idea of having a deep relationship, a connection with someone, is it because you weren't worthy of love? Still, was that?
Yeah, I think there was some of that of feeling like this will open up a can of worms that maybe I don't want to look at right now.
About yourself.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because every relationship's kind of a mirror, right?
Every relationship's what?
Kind of a mirror.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
right.
See things of yourself and the other person. You're like, I don't want to do this.
That's correct. Yeah, if you go past, so it's easy if you feel really comfortable in one particular layer. It's easy to dance in that layer with lots of people, and it may look like you have lots of friends. It may look like that may make you financially successful because like nothing attracts a crowd like a crowd, and so you have all this stuff. It's like, wow, cool, really. But oftentimes within that, the reason that there is so much money and material that's been produced and this crowd around, it could be just because you're compensating for a deeper sensation of like a void type feeling.
Did you face that over a long course of time, that void, that unworthiness inside, and that we all have, right? Like we all, I think pretty much we all struggle with self-love, right?
I don't know.
I've had some people that would say, well, some people are really arrogant. They don't struggle with self-love. Well,
no, those
arrogance
people are
is
the worst.
Yeah, arrogance
or the best or whatever.
Right, arrogance is not the same as self-love, right?
Arrogance is usually a patch. So if you move with arrogance, it means you're going out of your, and I only can say that because that's where I come from and still occupy at times. If you're going out of your way to show people how cool you are, if you have to show, typically it's an indication that underneath there's some weakness that you're trying to cover up.
Right.
It's the same thing with the guy that's like a black belt and everything. He goes to the bar, he's not going to be a cocky cunt.
Right.
He's going to be totally chill, easy, mild manner.
Yeah.
Probably won't get in a fight with anybody.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't put that out. Whereas the person is looking to prove something, they're looking to prove something because they actually feel perhaps like afraid.
100%. What do you want to accomplish with your life's work, with this book? What do you want to do? Do you want to make the world a better place? Is that what you're doing? You're trying to save humanity
It's a relative
one
words.
vertebrae at a time?
Yeah. I mean, better is relative. So what I would like to see is I would like to see shame ridden from the human body.
Okay.
In any form. And I know without a doubt that physical empowerment or physical embodiment, inhabitants, is one of the pathways to that. There's a lot of other things that you can do that will bring you back into a deeper level of physical inhabitants, or you can just focus directly more mechanically. In the Align Method book, I hit it from both ends. But that's what I really am excited to see. It's not what I want to see. I mean, it's that I already see it.
I was just about to ask you, do you see the tide coming in on these kinds of realizations?
Without a doubt, 100%.
Societally,
yes.
People are, yeah, I think so,
yeah.
100%.
And I think that there's very likely will be perhaps like a Y in the road, where there's people that like stick to their bodies and stick to getting their feet in the dirt and stick to climbing trees and loving each other and playing with each other and the things that are, what I conceive to be more meaningful. And then there may be people that are like going like bionic man type direction and just like download the computer into your brain and enter the next level of the simulation. I don't know if things are a simulation. I'm just saying that as a joke, but I think it's pretty much probably like 50-50.
Yeah.
Like, have you worn the goggles?
The VR goggles?
Yeah.
No, well, we did at the office. We had the PlayStation ones, but not like the other ones.
Dude, I mean, it's not that good right now, but it's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And when you get all souped up, like Alan Watts talks about this, who I know you're a fan of.
Big time.
He talks about at some point, essentially, he's describing this VR reality that's happening right now. And at first it'll be like, we get the visual thing, and then we're like, okay, cool, that was fun, but like I want more. We're like, okay, cool, we're gonna spray essential oil, so it's like you're in the woods and you can smell the pine.
Right.
Wow, cool, all right, okay, cool, but like I can't feel it.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, cool, now we have air and we're blowing, and slowly, surely, and now we're just so high def on the vision that's like, wow, like I cannot decipher the difference when I wear these fucking goggles.
It's totally that thing.
And so whether I just think it's interesting. I mean, Elon Musk seems pretty intelligent. He seems to be convinced that there's a good chance that's the case as well. Yeah. I don't care. It doesn't matter. If all of a sudden I found out that this was all a Truman Show, or this is a simulation, or this is made by Jesus or whoever, I'd be like, oh, okay, cool, sweet.
Yeah, I decided that this whole thing was a fucking video game a few years ago. and I don't really care. It
doesn't make any
it
difference.
Really
You're still going to play the game the same.
Yeah. I love one of the things that Jordan Peterson says. He says, play the game in such a way that you get invited back to play again.
Yes.
It's like one of the most meaningful things ever, So that's my kids' thing. I'm always telling them, I'm like, just don't be fucking assholes. Do a good job. Try your best.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most powerful form of currency is your relationships.
Yeah.
And so if you continually do good by every fucking person you come in contact with as often as possible. Sometimes you're not going to be able to even like make eye contact. You just have to walk through or whatever. You just don't. There's other stuff you got to do. But hopefully the other stuff that you have to do is in the name of supporting the tribe.
Yeah.
So the more that you can live your life based off of that, like every day, how do I support the tribe?
That's it.
And recognize that supporting your tribe is also supporting your own health. It's also taking care of your own thoughts and taking care of your own feelings, taking care of your own emotions, taking care of the own mechanics of your body. So one of the chapters in the book gets into the power of spending time on the ground, as we already mentioned. If right now, while you have access to physical autonomy, you can move and you can squat and you can do all those things. If you do not take advantage of that now and leverage that and use that on a daily basis, at some point you will end up being a liability to the tribe because you've fallen and you can't get up.
Yeah.
Fallen, you can't get up, and you're like, fuck, okay. Like,
now we gotta push grandma off
my
a cliff
kids,
now.
My kids need to go. They need to move in with me.
Yeah.
Because if I fall, I don't like granddad doesn't know what to do.
The Norse used to. They had the et to stupa practice. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
The Norse people had the et to stupa.
What's that?
And what they would do is whenever you got to a point where you couldn't walk on your own anymore with a walking stick, the whole tribe walked you up in this big, wonderful, grand ceremony to the top of the cliff, bro, and you did a swan dive. Wow. It was just
no way.
Fuck yeah,
the
man.
Et to Stupa.
Et to Stupa. That's hardcore shit, man.
I can't believe I don't know that.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite. I should have put that in the book. The Etta
you gotta rewrite
Christ.
it. You gotta have the chapter on the
Line
Etta
method
Stupa.
2.0. We're putting the Etta Stupa in their first fucking paragraph.
Well, but think about the different. I love that you love that. Think about the difference in the mindset and the psyche and the value set of a person who's willing to live that kind of life and go out in that way. There's just obviously not a fear of the beyond. There's not a fear of death. There's a whole different relationship that you've got with death and with the infinite when you're willing to do that.
Well, then you also have to question what is death and what am I, and so if you look at like, I think it would be systems theory and like a dynamic system, the convergence of a bunch of organisms, say like a school of fish or birds flying, whatever that, do you know what that term is when birds fly in that, the flying V? I only know as Mighty Ducks patterning. There's a beautiful, you know what I'm talking about though?
Yeah,
There's
100%.
a great word. I had on my list of words to look up today. Anyways, we can show notes it.
Yeah.
But there's a term, it's like something-ulation or something like that. But anyways, so when you look at a individual fish compared to a school of fish, they're like, it's almost like the school of fish is an organism.
Right.
It's the same thing with beehives, same thing with ants.
Aspen trees.
Yeah, exactly. Aspen trees is a more obvious version of it because the fish can separate and swim away or whatever. Aspen trees are at least like still like they stay in that one tribe.
Yep.
So the idea of what does it mean to kill an animal, or grandpa in this case, like grandpa is the tribe.
Yeah.
So if grandpa's provided so much value during his, like if you scuff off a skin cell when you're writing down, scuffing off, thousands or millions of skin cells right now as I'm rubbing my arm, is that a travesty? Well, I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's a part of it. I want to exfoliate. Like give rise to the new stuff, because the old stuff very likely is going to, potentially turn into something that, mutate into something funny.
Yep.
So as a whole, I'm not suggesting we kick our grandparents off of any hills or anything. But I just in general, I think it is fascinating, the idea of like, what is an individual life in the first place?
Yeah.
And when you look at it from more like a systems theory perspective, it's like, am I or am I just a part of this convergence, this big school?
How very Hindu of you.
I'm Hindu as fuck, dude.
I love it. Really? I was Hindu AF. That's the name of this podcast now. I love it. So do you do the religious thing? Are you into practicing religion?
I think religion's cool
in some way.
I like religion for the sake of learning about. I think people like really same Matrix reference, like eating whatever color pill and like going deep into a thing. I like to gather from that. I've always been more of like a fringe type person. Yep. Which in part, I already explained how I was a fringe type person with like relationships and stuff. Mostly I think, and perhaps in large part out of fear, distrust, not trusting, like, I don't know, like we're all wearing the same jacket, like what are we doing here? What is this? And so, but within that, I think that those folks all wearing the same jacket and reading the same book and walking the same way and all that, they're probably learning something that I wouldn't get being like a fringe character. Right. So I like to gather from that. And I think that if you do look in the various different spiritual texts, Bible included, it's all pretty much saying very similar things, like same but different.
You a Joseph Campbell fan?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you like Joseph Campbell?
I was going to base the whole line method off of the hero's journey, but then I think the agents didn't like it as much, or the publishers didn't like it. I like what we did instead. But yeah, I like Joseph Campbell a lot.
Yeah, I dig it. I've always been fascinated with mythologies and with religions and comparative religious study and stuff like that. Yeah. And there's a whole lot of these stories that you start to see the common threads that tie them all together. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's so many people that are these days. Science has progressed to the point, I think, where a lot of scientifically minded people, like good, sound, logical people, just feel like religion's it's just a travesty, right? It's like an intellectual, anathema thing. Like you shouldn't have anything to do with it. Yeah. There certainly is a lot of abuse of religion, right? There's some things that aren't quite so favorable.
There's a lot of abuse of everything.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But there's, exercise is to health what religion is to spirituality. I think it's kind of the way that I see it. But
I've said at this point probably like 1,000 times to you. I don't know that you would have ever heard it yet, but like that's within all of the different fitness dogmas there is a consistent golden thread that runs through it. And that was the whole intention, or one of the primary intentions of writing the Align Method, was how can we can join, what is that golden thread in dance and martial arts and weightlifting and Pilates and all of that. There's consistent mechanics that relate to all of it. That what if we just pull the good stuff out of all of those different dogmas and put that into this kind of like new dogma of like, dude, as you're walking down the street to grab a cappuccino, as you're carrying your kid, as you're picking something off the ground, as you're breathing, as you're sitting, as you're standing, as you're driving in your car, all of those are opportunities for fitness. And we can pull those golden threads from wrestling and fucking gymnastics and pull that into your commute.
Yeah, that's tremendous. My thing, one of the big things that changed my life when I found your work and started trying to figure out how the fuck I was going to integrate fitness into my life, because it just, how do you get started when you have no idea? You know, it was one day sitting on the couch. I was watching Star Trek Next Generation. You watch Star Trek Next Generation?
Not since I was like 6.
Podcast over.
I don't know what Next Generation is though. Maybe I just watch old school Star Trek.
Yeah, no, it was probably the same one. Yeah, we're about the same age. So
Yeah.
if you were 6 watching it, that's what I was growing up watching.
Yeah, I remember my
right?
dad he had a big bowl of popcorn. He was wearing his bati.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's bati is like this like thing wrapped around your nuts.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I don't know. It's like a what is that?
Yeah, a loincloth?
Sarong. Yeah, like a sarong.
I love it.
Yeah, my dad was interesting.
I love
he
it.
went to prison for smoking crack, that guy.
Really?
Yeah.
What a fucking great story. We've been talking about the wrong shit for the last hour. Jesus, how much time do we have left? I want to hear this.
Now he's out. Now he's
This
bored.
explains so much. Is this why you're such a goofball? Does
Yeah,
your dad have a lot to do with that?
Humor is important, man.
Well, laughter is the enemy of stress, man.
Yeah. I think that most people, like comedian, I'm not traditionally funny. I'm more just kind of like silly, weird. That sometimes that comes out as surprising, which is kind of humor. Like smiles happen.
I get it.
Yeah. But within that, I think that a lot of that is again like more protection.
Yeah.
Like one time I went to visit my dad while he's in prison, and it was like Christmas, and I was living in Hawaii at the time. I had moved, and I was there with my brother, and there's Pops, and comes out, and he's like, fucking prison, and it's like if you were to look at it and it be, you were like 8 years old or something like that, and look in 10 years in the future, or whatever that was at that point, 11 years, something like that, you'd be like, wow, this is about worst case scenario.
Right.
There's lots of things that would actually be much worse than that,
sure,
realistically.
But it's going to rank pretty high up there in the moment for sure.
Yeah, if you're like a little kid. And in that moment, all I could do was crack jokes and laugh and, all that. I think
is that where that came from with you?
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, I think in part. I think there was like, so now my dad he's doing really well. He's doing the best ever. He's in love now, which is very exciting.
That's awesome.
And he's like,
Dad.
he like loves Jesus. Jesus is his homeboy. And so
Sweet.
for him, religion has been really of great value. So I respect that.
Sure.
I think that religion is like a medicine, and it's like, is it the right medicine for you or not? Like, it probably depends on the time of year, your age, like where you're at in your life.
Sure.
At some point, the medicine that you take today would probably not be the medicine for you in 9 years.
Right. If you're growing.
If you're growing. Yeah. So I think that, again, back to like Watts, he describes religion as kind of like a scaffolding.
Mm-hmm.
So the scaffolding holds you up until you can kind of let go of that story that you were told about, this deity doing this and saving the world and picking the mountain up above their head and protecting the town from rain and all that stuff. It's a Hare Krishna reference. And at some point you can move past that and say, all right, you know what, maybe I'm just, or maybe now you move past, I don't know. I'm kind of being like spiritually arrogant, but going into a place of like, okay, like, you know what, maybe I'm just connected with everything and I don't need some book to tell me that. I feel this love with or without those chapters telling me about these stories.
Do you have a practice in your life that takes you to that place of divinity and that place of nirvana? How do you get there? You seem like a pretty meditative, mindful dude. I've been following you for a minute.
Yeah.
How do you get there?
I watch the sunset every day. Yeah, so I make that be a primary staple, almost no matter what. Like people sometimes to make things easier, it's to like get my face out of the cell phone. If whoever person is like, oh, let's like meet up or whatever, my common response is like, oh, just meet up at this place for sunset. I'll very likely be there.
That's awesome. I'm fucking moving to Santa Monica. I'm over it.
Yeah. You know, so I don't think that's that big of a deal. As I'm saying it, it sounds like some like Native American something. I'm like, no, it's really not a big deal. It's like I go down to this place called Santa Monica Muscle Beach, which is like there's slack lines set up and people picking each other up and bars to spin around on. It's just it's literally an adult playground. And I make it a point to go there to watch the sunset almost every day.
I get that. I grew up on a lake, and our house was facing to the west, and those sunsets that came over that lake were always beautiful to me. And recently I realized that I haven't gone and watched that sunset in a long time, so it's kind of a synchronistic thing for me to ask that question and for you to answer it in that way. It's really cool. Total sidebar, on fucking Muscle Beach, I just saw the other day some dude was lifting you up over his head with one hand.
Oh, Mike Idala, my man.
Christ, man.
Mike's my man crush.
Yeah. Dude, and you're not a small dude. You're 6'4" plus.
220 pounds.
220, and this
Mike's,
guy.
He's a bad mofo.
What in the world, man? That was too much. Now I've seen you and some of the other guys doing that with much smaller humans.
Yeah, that's
right?
typically the way it goes.
That's typically the way that works. I never pictured you as a flyer before.
His goal is to be able to overhead squat 400 pounds, and he's like a little guy. He's not, not a little guy, but he's much smaller than I am.
Really? Yeah, I couldn't tell all that much, but it was crazy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And so it wasn't that he was just picking me up over his head. He's picking up what's called a side star. So I'm all of my weight is in his one hand, and I'm up on my side of my hip, and I'm kind of like everything's spread out like a starfish, essentially. So he's teetering, balancing me up there, and then he goes into what was going to be a Turkish getup, but we did end up flailing on that, and then we come into some cute little, and you can see it on the Instagram page. Yeah.
We'll throw that in. If you're watching this on YouTube, we'll throw that in there, so you'll get that. When did you start doing like the acro stuff and the Rolfing and whatever? What is Rolfing?
Stuff was a while ago. Rolfing. Well, I explained before, the structural integration is a better term for it. So that was originally what Rolfing was called, was structural integration. And there's various different schools ranging from, like, I think I might have mentioned, like Feldenkrais, Alexander technique. A lot of it comes from the practice of osteopathy. And it's essentially what it is you're working to align the parts from the foot all the way up to the top of the head. And the way that they do that is through slow manipulations, working with connective tissue or fascia.
I love it.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing that?
That's been, I don't know, Rolfing. I went to school. So before that, I was doing other forms of manual therapy. But I think Rolfing has probably been maybe 8 years or something like that. And
are you a therapist? Do you
like a talk therapist?
Well, I mean, yeah. Like, do you do?
No, I mean,
or
that's what it ends
therapy
up
or any of that
being.
Stuff?
Yeah, no, I mean, I studied psychology at University of Hawaii.
Yeah. So you're just naturally all fucking smooth like this, and like paying attention to people's problems and helping people work stuff out.
I've been working with people, and including, I mean, back to like my dad's stuff. I mean, there was a time where I was passing letters underneath his door, doing my best to convince him not to kill himself.
Yeah.
You know, so that's from like a young age.
How old were you whenever that was going on?
16.
Yeah. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's real tough.
No, it's great. It's a fucking miracle.
Yeah.
That's what a miracle is. I think like that's a miracle.
Yeah.
Like, honest to God, like to be at this point, pretty young, you know, and like to be doing the stuff that I feel just like flabbergasted and privileged that I get to just
follow your bliss,
do the crap that I'm doing. Yeah, man. If I didn't have that, be no way, man. You know, it was great.
That's a beautiful thing. I love that Joseph Campbell concept of follow your bliss.
Yeah.
You know, looks to me like you're living your best life. You think?
There's a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Work's never done, huh?
No.
What are you working on right now?
Opening my heart, man.
Yeah.
We got some beeps. Oh, we got to flip the camera things?
No, you're good.
We got mad cameras going on.
Oh, we got cameras for days, son.
Yeah, cameras
up
for
in
days.
here.
So what are you working on right now? What's Aaron Alexander's like personal fucking project? What are you trying to do?
Well, the book is a big deal.
Yeah.
That's the primary thing. Making underneath all of that, though, I think like love is the primary thing that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
So all of this stuff with movement's just an excuse to bring people together and get us to do weird shit together, and release the shame stuff that I was referring to earlier, and just be weird, and open, and drop any kind of judgment. So bringing groups of people together. So I do these like monthly dinners where I bring a bunch of interesting people together, and I love teaching workshops and getting together humans to move on the ground in weird ways, and breathe in weird ways, and look at each other in weird ways, and balance on each other in weird ways. Weird means to be in control of one's fate, by the way. That's the original etymology.
Is that what that means?
Yeah, it's an old English word, W-Y-R-D, weird.
To be in control of one's fate?
Yeah, weird means fate. So if you're a weird person, you're probably doing the right thing.
I like that.
Yeah, so underneath everything, I think cultivating meaningful community is the thing that I care about the most. And the way that I see where we can like feed multiple birds with one hand, or instead of killing them, which then, what does it mean to kill a bird? Because it's just attached to the convergence of the whole system. But to
get your shit together, man.
But within that, it's just an excuse to bring people together, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. All right, well, anyone who is not currently following Aaron on every platform that you can find him on, go find him. Good dude.
Thanks, man.
Knows some things. Pick up the Align method. It's going to come out December 24th, but you can pre-order right now. I pre-ordered mine on Amazon.
I appreciate that.
And that shit will come right to your doorstep on
December
Christmas.
24th. Yeah, that's what
Christmas.
Amazon says. It says arrives by December 24th. Whether that is the case or not, we'll find out.
That's not up to you. You're not shipping it.
I'm not shipping it.
Yeah,
but
no,
it
no
says
personal guarantees.
Amazon says you'll get it by December 24th. People can go to thealignbook.com to pre-order. On there, they'll get some bonuses and extras and such.
Thanks for letting me know in advance, Dick. I already got mine on Amazon.
Oh, yeah. Well, whatever. It's all
That's
good.
all right. I'll have you send me an Align band, an
Yeah,
Alexander band.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I'll do that, definitely.
Aaron's work has changed my life. It's impacted my family, my kids. Man, I'm so thankful to you for all of the things that you do, and for just being the genuine, awesome human that you are.
Thanks.
And everybody needs to get in on some of that goodness. And then, look, I think that we're tribal. We're a tribal species. We're a communal species. And we do best in these tribal and communal settings. And even when we're not personally together in a tribe around a great big campfire, one of the amazing things is that social media has given us that ability for me to stop by your page, or you to stop by my page, or I can go to Kyle's page or Aubrey's page, and there's a great big bonfire going on there.
Yep.
And we can come light our torches on that bonfire, and we can run off into the woods and light
Ideally,
up the
we
woods.
stand beside the bonfire instead of getting burnt by it, though.
Ideally, yeah. That's why you gotta make sure you don't have too many tequilas and you fall in the in the bonfire.
Have your wits about you while you're holding the bonfire in your hand.
Yep. Go light your torch on Aaron's page.
Yep.
And some other friends of yours. You got Aubrey Marcus. Aubrey's a great guy to follow and get his info and stuff too. And Kyle Kingsbury, wonderful guy.
Kingsboo.
Love it. Aaron, thanks for your time, brother.
Thanks, man. Yeah, if people give a dang, they can tune in the podcast as well. That's what I've been doing that for the last 4.5 years.
100%. Align podcasting. You're up on all the platforms.
Weirdos on there. What?
You're on all the platforms, right?
All the platforms.
So
Align
get you
podcast.
all the things.
All the things.
So Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, everything. Is that on YouTube too?
It is, yeah.
Oh, yeah, fucking everything's everything.
Yeah.
Go follow him. It's good shit.
Cool. Thank you, brother.
Much love. Thank you, man.
Appreciate it.
Peace.
That was fun.